Hi, automotive students. Another day of maintenance. Today I'm going to just do a lube oil filter on the Harley. So again, just something to show you that you can apply what you've learned with automotives to other modes of transportation, motorcycles. This is a 2006 Harley. It was my daily rider for probably 8.5, 9 years. It kind of has an easy life now since year and a half ago, almost 2 years now, I got the BMW as my daily rider. So Harley is semi-retired. I've got about 90,000 on it, and I'm not doing as many maintenance checks on it as I once did. Used to be I'd change the lube oil or do lube oil filter 4 times a year, sometimes a little bit more than that. So now it's very little. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the engine oil and the filter, but I'm also going to change the oil in the primary cover, and I'm going to change the transmission oil. So we're going to do all 3 holes, as I call it, today, and I use 3 different lubes for it also. So we'll talk about that a little bit when we get there. All right, one of the things I'm going to need to remove right in here is my oil filter. It's a pretty thing. I love this particular type. It's got a nut right on the end of it. It didn't come stock, Harley, but I've been using them for, well, probably, oh, I lied. I got 98,000. I've got almost 100,000 on this thing. So anyways, I've been using those since about 10,000 miles and haven't had any difficulty with them. I like the fact that there's a nut on the end of it. Using the nut, I don't have to get in there with a strap wrench or one of those little end type wrenches with the little notches in it. I can just put, in this case, 11/16 socket, fits that real nice extension. I can pull that off, and does a real nice job for me. So that's one that's going to have to come off. Now I'm going to need to remove 3 plugs actually. This one is just an Allen. I'll go in there and I'll remove that, and I can drain the oil in the primary case. That's still a little hot, which it should be. As I've said in past videos and classes, I like to make sure I get the oil changed within half hour of engine shutdown. That way I've got all of that gunk that the oil's been hopefully gathering and cleaning with the aid of detergent. Hopefully it's going to come out of the engine instead of settling down into the engine as it does when it cools. All right, now something maybe a little difficult for you to see here. Here we go. There's a plug right here. This one is going to be for the engine oil. So I'm going to need to pull them out of there, and we'll drain that into the oil. And then on the other side, we'll walk around over to the other side. It's not very easy to see either, but right there. Okay, so that's another plug. I mean, it looks exactly like the one for the engine, which is over here, except this one's kind of up in there vertically. So I'll pull all 3 of these plugs out, get them draining. We'll get the oil filter out, get it draining, and we'll go ahead and finish doing the maintenance. Now, a couple other things I want to do today. I'm going to check the primary chain for play. I'm going to lubricate the clutch cable, adjust the clutch cable and the clutch itself. I'm also going to check, and if necessary, adjust the final drive belt. So I've got a little bit of stuff to do, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to film it. And well, we don't film anymore, but I record it in the magical world of digital video, and we'll have at it. So let me get at it, start pulling these things out, and try not to make a mess. All right, we'll just bust it loose. It's one of the basic things you need to remember. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. All right, that one is loosened. Okay, now what else I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and pull that. This is the dipstick for the transmission. I'm going to go ahead and just pull him out of there. Not that I really have to, but I kind of like to. There's a hose. This is pretty warm in here. There's a hose right here. As long as that's not plugged, then there's no problem really with me draining the oil and without opening the drain here or the plug. But I like to pull them out and kind of leave them off to the side. That way, you know, if something should interrupt me, I do a walk around on the bike before I fire it up and take it out of here. With this plug or this drain, sorry, my dipstick here, with it removed, then obviously that I need to do something. So rather than just leaving it in and take the chance that I didn't remember whether I put oil in it or not, and assumed I did because the plug was in, I'm going to just kind of pull them out and leave them like that. That way, again, just something that kind of works for me. If you don't have a problem with getting uninterrupted and forgetting exactly where you were, and great, you don't have to do silly stuff like this that I tend to like to do. Now, I'm also going to remove the oil dipstick. That's the engine oil dipstick right there. Kind of the same reason. I don't absolutely have to pull it out. When I drain the crankcase oil, it's not going to form a vacuum as long as the crankcase ventilation system's doing its job. But again, I like to pull it up out of there so that, again, at a glance, I can see, you know, if for some reason I was interrupted and I didn't get the oil put in. I know it sounds funny, but you know, this is something that I've done so that I know that I did not do something or I still have something left to do. Used to do that when I did carburetors too. I would tend to leave little either messages to myself or leave parts particular places, so at a glance I could see what was done, what wasn't. So I was a shop foreman a couple places, and one of the carb places I was a shop foreman, so I got interrupted regularly. So I adopted a kind of procedure just so I wouldn't make mistakes. So anyways, there's a long lecture about nothing. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to see if I can do it with a bare hand because this is still pretty hot. Oh, yes, it's hot. It's hot. It's hot. Oh, okay, there we go. I got enough out of the way. That's beautiful. All right, now we're going to put a drain pan in there. We're going to pull everything out there and try not to make a mess. Shallower drain pan would be kind of nice. I've got the kickstand swung out of the way. So they got a little more room in there. Otherwise, this would be up there. So before I was filming, I bumped my head on there, said a couple expletives. So I'm glad I didn't catch that on camera. So be careful if you tend to do it like this. All right, I've got him out of the way, or I've got that plug just loosened. So this plug also has a hex in there. Let me move him back out of here. Yeah, I hit the camera on the kickstand that time, so that didn't hurt me. I don't know if the camera can swear or not. But. All right, so anyways, there's a hex in there. I like to use a ratchet or a wrench to break it loose. I don't particularly care to put the little Allen in there because I don't know, I'm goofy like that. I figure it would wear probably a little more, so I don't tighten it or loosen it with it. However, it is convenient for me to put this Allen in. All right, so I've got a long Allen socket in there. So now I can grab that, I can twist the thing out of there hopefully, and not drop it in there. So this is what I'm going to attempt to do. So much for absolutely no mess. All right, yeah, there that is. Got him removed. A little bit of oil dripping, but okay. Normally I don't have to hold a camera when I'm doing this, so I'll cut myself a little bit of slack. This has a magnet on the end of it, so I like to check that. Make sure that I don't have any kind of metal parts or anything in there. Now, a little bit, yeah, see, it's nothing real bad, a little bit of dirt, but I don't see any shiny metal on there, so I'm happy. I was able to save it. All right, this also has a magnet on there. We check to make sure that nothing nasty's going on with there. That doesn't look too hateful. Wipe that off and check it. Now, this is a different type of lubricant. It's pretty purple Probably can't see that through here, but there we go. Now, those are 2 of the 3 liquids that I need to change. It's draining. Last one will be that front cover or the primary chain drive lube. That'll be this guy right down here. All right, go ahead and remove that drain plug, the primary cover. And like the other 2 plugs, it does have a magnet on it. Now this I would expect to see a little more gunk on it than the other 2, mostly because this oil is lubricating the primary drive chain, but also our clutch. We've got a multi-disc clutch, so any of that material that tends to shed away from the clutch is going to end up there. So we get a bunch of gunk like that, and that's, like I said, I don't see any big metal pieces, anything like that. So it kind of reminds you a little bit of some of the sediment you might see in an automatic transmission drain pan. All right, next thing we're going to pull that filter out. Try not to make a mess. I have in the past used 2-liter bottle, pop bottle, try to put in there to channel the oil away, and I always made a mess anyway, so I'm just going to remove it. Okay, got the nut on there, and this works real nice. Again, I like this type of filter. All right. Now, if I can get in there. Again, I don't normally have to do this while staying out of the way of the camera. Okay, I've got him out. Make sure the old gasket is still in there, and it is. Now, this is my preference, but I like to take a rag and I like to wipe down this surface where the new oil filter and the gasket is going to go, just to make sure there's no burrs, any kind of nasty stuff in there. Generally what I do with oil filters, and again, kind of carries over from automotive, is I like to add a little bit of oil to the filter. Because an automotive and the filter was vertical, I would fill that filter up completely with oil. And again, the reason for that is that before that engine received any oil from the pump, that filter basically had to be filled with oil from that pump. So during initial startup, there was a little bit of a delay of oil getting to the mains if you didn't fill your oil filter up. Now, did it ever cause any problems? Who knows? But cheap insurance. Now, with the Harleys, from what I'm told, the engine is receiving oil, even though this filter may not be filled. So I guess you really don't have to do that on this. I like to do it anyways. So I've added some oil to it. Usually once the oil settles in there, soaks up in there, you're not going to make much of a mess turning this over unless you completely filled the filter. Then you're going to make a mess. All right, I've got the gasket coated with some oil. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put him in place. Now, some of you may be wondering what these hoses are. I'm moving out of the way here. I also installed an engine oil cooler on this, so many of you will not have this in your way. Okay, now these, depending on the, the manufacturer, Some manufacturers are going to tell you to put this down until the gasket contacts, and then you're going to turn it 3/4 to 1 full turn, somewhere in that neighborhood. I tend to stick with that. Unless, of course, it's a BMW and they want it to be torqued 11 to 20 Newton meters. Kind of silly. All right, I've made contact, and again, by finger, I really couldn't tighten that too much. So there's a 1/4, there's a 1/2. I'm going to be happy with a little. There we go. About there, I'm happy. So again, one of the other drawbacks to putting that oil cooler in, the stock Harley location has it down under here, and as a result, when that oil drains from that oil filter, it happens to accumulate in the nice pretty chrome housing for the oil cooler itself. So if I don't hose this down very well, I'm going to have oil dripping out of this thing for a week or so. Actually, it'd be probably a little more than that, since I don't ride this every day anymore. So I like to hit that with the brake clean. I haven't had any trouble with brake clean causing damage to paint, at least the brake clean that we use here. So I don't have any issues getting it close to the fender here. My voltage regulator and rectifier there.